The moment my sister Emily unwrapped my gift at her 35th birthday party, her face twisted into that familiar sneer I knew too well. She held up the restored compass, our grandmother's most treasured possession, and laughed. "Cheap, worthless trash," she announced to all her wealthy friends, then tossed it into the garbage can beside her. I stood there silently, watching her performative cruelty, knowing she had no idea that the luxury home she stood in, the Tesla in her driveway, and the designer dress she wore were all paid for by me. The party continued around me as if nothing had happened. Emily's guests, all dressed in their expensive clothes and dripping with jewelry, went back to their champagne and small talk. I remained frozen in place, staring at that trash can where our grandmother's compass now lay among discarded wrapping paper and party plates. Emily glided through her guests, playing the perfect hostess, occasionally throwing glances my way with that smirk that said she enjoyed humiliating me. What she didn't know was that for the past 5 years, since our parents died in that car accident, I had been the invisible foundation holding up her entire life. When our parents passed, I inherited the family construction business. Dad had built it from nothing into a multi-million-dollar company, and his will made it clear why he left it to me instead of Emily. But I never told her about the inheritance. Instead, I let her believe she was the successful one while I worked quietly in the background. Every month for 5 years, $30,000 flowed from my accounts into various shell companies I had created. These companies had one purpose: keeping Emily afloat without her knowing. Her boutique that she bragged about constantly? It had never turned a profit, not once. The mortgage on this $500,000 house where she threw parties and looked down on me? I paid it through a trust she thought was from a distant relative who didn't exist. The Tesla Model S, she drove around town, posting photos on social media about her success. I had purchased it through another shell company and arranged for her to win it in a contest she thought she had entered randomly online. Even the health insurance for her family came through a special program her husband Mark had supposedly qualified for at his teaching job, but it was actually me covering the premium costs. I had spent 3 months restoring that compass. Our grandmother had carried it through her immigration from Ireland, through the Depression, through raising 6 kids alone after Grandpa died young. She used to tell us it would always point us home, no matter how lost we got. It was the only thing I had kept from her estate, and I had painstakingly restored every brass detail, replaced the crystal, and had it professionally calibrated. "George, you really should try to dress better for these events." Emily's voice cut through my thoughts. She had appeared beside me with her circle of friends. "Everyone's been asking what you do for work these days. Still bouncing between odd jobs?" I looked at her designer dress, knowing I had paid for it last week when she maxed out her credit card. "I keep busy," I said simply. "He's too proud to accept help," Emily told her friends, shaking her head with fake sympathy. "I've offered him positions at my boutique, but he insists on doing things his way. Some people just can't be helped." Her friend Jennifer, wearing diamonds I recognized from a purchase alert on the credit card I secretly paid off monthly, looked at me with pity. "It must be hard, Emily, having to watch your brother struggle." "The hardest part is the embarrassment," Emily said, not even trying to lower her voice. "When people find out we're related, I have to explain that we were raised the same way but made different choices." Mark, Emily's husband, appeared at her shoulder. He was a good man, a high school history teacher who genuinely loved his students. He had married Emily 10 years ago when she was different, or at least pretended to be. "Emily, that's enough," he said quietly. "I'm just being honest," Emily replied, flipping her hair. "George knows I love him despite his failures." Mark caught my eye and mouthed sorry before leading Emily away to greet more guests. He had been doing that more lately, apologizing for his wife with looks and gestures, as if he knew something was deeply wrong but couldn't quite identify it. I walked over to the trash can, planning to retrieve the compass when no one was looking, but Emily's friend Robert was standing right next to it, talking loudly about his new yacht. I decided to wait until later. The party continued for another 2 hours. I nursed a single beer and watched Emily work the room, accepting gifts that would never mean as much to her as that compass should have. She talked about her upcoming expansion plans for the boutique, the vacation home she was considering in Florida, the private school she was enrolling her kids in next year. Each plan, each brag, each moment of showing off was built on my money, my sacrifices, my silence. Around 10 that evening, as guests started leaving, I overheard Emily in the kitchen on her phone. She was speaking in that hushed, urgent tone she used when she thought she was being clever. "Yes, Mr. Peterson, I want to move forward with the paperwork," she was saying. "My grandmother definitely had more assets than what was disclosed. I know George is hiding them. He was always her favorite, always visiting her at the nursing home. She must have given him access to accounts we don't know about." My blood went cold. Peterson was a lawyer, one known for aggressive estate litigation. "I have proof he was manipulating her in her final years," Emily continued. "All those visits when she had dementia? He must have had her sign things. I want what's rightfully mine, and I don't care what it takes to get it." She paused, listening to the response. "Yes, file the preliminary paperwork. I want to catch him off guard. He's too stupid to see it coming anyway." I stepped back from the kitchen doorway, my mind racing. Not only was she living off my money while humiliating me publicly, but now she was planning to sue me for assets that didn't exist, claiming I had manipulated our grandmother, the same grandmother whose compass she had just thrown in the trash. I pulled out my phone and sent a single text message to Sarah, my CFO, initialized Project Truth, Monday morning, 9 sharp. Then I walked past the kitchen, past the remaining guests, past the trash can where the compass still lay, and out the front door. Emily didn't even notice I had left. As I drove home in my 10-year-old Honda Civic, the car Emily always mocked, I thought about the 5 years of statements, receipts, and documentation sitting in my office safe. Every payment, every bailout, every secret rescue operation I had conducted to keep my sister's life afloat. She thought I was stupid. She thought I was poor. She thought I was a failure. Monday morning, she would learn exactly how wrong she was. Monday arrived with unusual clarity, one of those crisp mornings where everything seems sharper, more defined. I arrived at my actual office at 7, 2 hours before the meeting with Sarah. The building was one of those gleaming downtown towers that Emily drove past every day on her way to her boutique, never knowing that the top-floor executive suite belonged to her failure of a brother. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the city waking up below. Somewhere out there, Emily was probably getting ready for another day of pretending to be successful, another day of spending money she didn't earn, another day of living a lie I had enabled for too long. Sarah arrived early, as always. She was carrying 2 coffee cups and a thick folder that I knew contained 5 years of carefully documented financial records. Sarah wasn't just my CFO. She had history with Emily that I only learned about after hiring her 3 years ago. "You ready for this, George?" she asked, setting a coffee on my desk. "I should have done it years ago," I replied, taking a sip of the perfectly prepared dark roast. "You were honoring your parents' wishes. They asked you to take care of her. Taking care of someone doesn't mean enabling their cruelty," I said, turning from the window. She crossed a line Saturday night. Sarah opened the folder, spreading documents across the conference table. "Let's review what we're dealing with. Emily's boutique is currently losing $30,000 a month. She's been telling everyone it's a massive success, even claiming she's planning to franchise, but she hasn't made a single profitable month in 4 years. How is that even possible?" I asked, though I knew the answer. She refuses to listen to advice, overstocks inventory based on her personal taste rather than market research, and treats her employees so poorly that turnover is constant. The only reason she still has staff is because we're secretly supplementing their salaries to make up for her behavior. Sarah pulled out another document. The Tesla she drives is registered to our shell company, Infinity Holdings. She's been using it as collateral for personal loans, which is fraud since she doesn't own it. 3 different banks have liens against a vehicle she has no legal right to pledge. "What about the house?" "That's where it gets interesting," Sarah said, a slight smile crossing her face. "The house is owned by the George McAllister Family Trust, which pays the mortgage, taxes, and insurance directly. Emily and Mark think they own it outright because we process everything through a law firm that sends them fake statements showing they have equity. In reality, they're essentially tenants who don't pay rent. I sat down across from her, the weight of what was about to happen settling on my shoulders, and the community center donations. Sarah's expression darkened. She's been taking credit for those for 3 years. The plaques, the ceremonies, the news articles about her generosity, all while the checks came from your personal account. But here's something you didn't know. She's been approaching those same organizations asking for kickbacks, claiming she needs to recoup administrative costs for her donations. She's asking for kickbacks from charity donations she didn't even make? 20% typically. Most organizations refused, but 2 actually paid her, thinking they were reimbursing legitimate expenses. The door opened, and my legal team entered. 2 senior partners from one of the city's most prestigious firms. Richard Blackstone and Amanda Torres had handled my company's affairs for years, but this was personal. "George," Richard said, shaking my hand. "We've reviewed everything. You have absolute legal right to reclaim all assets immediately. The trust structure Sarah established is ironclad." "What about the lawsuit she's planning?" I asked. Amanda smiled. "We were served with preliminary papers this morning. She's claiming you manipulated your grandmother into hiding assets. It's completely baseless, especially considering your grandmother's estate was fully probated and closed 3 years ago with Emily's full knowledge and signature on all documents. But here's the interesting part," Richard added, pulling out his tablet. "We had our investigator do some digging. Emily has been telling people for years that she turned down her inheritance to build something on her own. We have 17 witnesses who will testify that she's repeatedly claimed she refused family money out of principle." Sarah laughed, short and bitter. "Of course she did. The narrative of the self-made success sounds better than admitting she was cut out of the will for stealing." I looked up sharply. "You knew about that?" Sarah met my eyes. "George, I was her roommate in college, remember? I saw her take money from your parents' emergency fund when they visited. I watched her fake emergencies to get cash from them. I was there when she stole my business plan for a boutique and pitched it to investors as her own idea. Why do you think her store is hemorrhaging money? She stole the concept, but had no idea how to execute it. You never told me that's what happened between you two. You never asked, and I figured you had enough to deal with. But when you hired me and I saw what you were doing for her, keeping her afloat while she destroyed you publicly, I started documenting everything. I knew this day would come." She pulled out her phone and showed me a video. It was from Saturday's party, filmed by one of the catering staff. The footage clearly showed Emily throwing the compass in the trash, her cruel words audible above the party noise. But more importantly, it captured the conversation afterward where she called me a failure, an embarrassment, and said she wished she could disown me. "The catering company uses body cameras for liability purposes," Sarah explained. "The owner is a client of ours. He was happy to share the footage when I explained the situation." Richard cleared his throat. "So, how do you want to proceed? We can do this gradually, or all at once." "All at once," I said without hesitation, like pulling off a bandage. "Very well," Amanda said, pulling out a stack of documents. "Sign these, and by end of business today, all assets revert to your direct control. The house, the car, the business funding, everything stops immediately." I signed each document carefully, my hand steady despite the magnitude of what I was doing. With each signature, I was dismantling the false life my sister had built on my foundation. "There's one more thing," Sarah said quietly. "Mark has been texting you." She handed me my personal phone, which I had been ignoring all morning. There were 7 messages from my brother-in-law. "George, I'm sorry about Saturday night. Emily was out of line. The kids saw everything. They keep asking why Mom threw away Uncle George's gift. I found the compass in the trash. I have it. We need to talk. There are things you don't know. The kids have been asking about you for months. Emily tells them you're too busy for them. Please, George. I think my marriage is falling apart and I don't know what to do." I stared at the messages, feeling a mix of anger and sympathy. Mark was a good man trapped in a situation he didn't fully understand. "Reply to him," Sarah advised. "He might be your ally in this." I typed back, "Meet me for lunch today. 1 o'clock at Murphy's Deli." Come alone. His response was immediate. I'll be there. The morning continued with a flurry of activity. Legal notices were prepared, accounts were frozen, and automatic payments were canceled. By noon, Emily's carefully constructed house of cards would begin to fall. George, Sarah said as the lawyers prepared to leave, she's going to come here when she finds out. Are you ready for that? She doesn't even know where my office is, I replied. She will by the end of the day. News travels fast in this city, especially bad news. I nodded, looking back out at the city below. Let her come. It's time she faced the truth. As everyone filed out to execute the plan, I remained at the window, thinking about our parents. They had loved Emily, despite her flaws, had asked me to take care of her in their will. But I wondered if they would recognize the person she had become, this cruel, entitled stranger who bore their daughter's face. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. Thank you. There's something you need to know about Emily. She's been lying about more than you think. See you at 1. I set the phone down and walked to my desk, where a photo of our family from 15 years ago sat in a silver frame. We looked happy then, before money and death and lies had torn us apart. Emily was smiling genuinely in that photo, her arm around my shoulders, looking at me with actual affection. I wondered if that person still existed somewhere inside her, or if she had been completely consumed by greed and pride. In 3 hours, I would find out. Murphy's Deli was intentionally chosen. It was a small family-owned place that Emily would never visit because it wasn't trendy enough for her image. Mark arrived 10 minutes early, looking haggard and carrying a small bag. He slid into the booth across from me and immediately pulled out the compass, setting it gently on the table between us. I cleaned it, he said simply. Couldn't stand seeing it in the trash. Thank you, I replied, carefully placing the compass in my jacket pocket. Mark ordered coffee, black, and waited until the waitress left before speaking again. George, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting. I nodded. I've known for 2 years that you were supporting us. I'm not an idiot. Teachers talk to each other, and when my colleague mentioned that there was no special insurance program at our school, I started investigating. It took me 6 months to trace everything back to you. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my lips. You've known for 2 years? Yes. And I've been documenting Emily's behavior ever since. I have recordings, George. Recordings of her talking about you, about your parents, about the money she stole from them before they died. She admitted to stealing? Mark pulled out his phone and played a voice recording. Emily's voice filled the space between us, slurred from wine but crystal clear. My parents were idiots. They kept cash in that safe thinking I didn't know the combination. I took thousands over the years and they never noticed. George was always their perfect son, but I was smarter. I got what I needed. When was this? 3 months ago. She was drunk, celebrating some supposed big sale at the boutique. But George, that's not the worst part. Mark's hands shook as he switched to another recording. Listen to this. Emily's voice again, this time talking to someone on the phone. The kids don't need to see their uncle. I told them he's basically homeless, probably on drugs. Better they don't get attached to a loser. Besides, I've been putting his name on gifts I buy them. They think he sends presents every birthday and Christmas. I cash the checks he sends for their college funds and use it for the boutique. He'll never know. I felt my jaw clench. She's been stealing from your children? $20,000 per child over 5 years. The checks you sent for their education are gone, spent on inventory that never sold, expensive lunches with friends. That trip to Paris, she posted all over social media. The waitress brought our sandwiches, but neither of us touched them. There's more, Mark continued. She's been having an affair with her supposed investor, David Chen, the one she's always meeting for business dinners. I have photos, credit card records, showing hotel rooms, everything. Mark, I'm sorry. He shook his head. Don't be. I fell out of love with Emily 3 years ago when I saw who she really was. I stayed for the kids, but now I realize I was just enabling her like everyone else. When I saw her throw that compass, your grandmother's compass, in the trash and call it worthless, something inside me broke. That compass survived the Atlantic crossing, the Depression, a world war, and my wife threw it away like garbage because it didn't have a designer label. What are you going to do? I'm taking the kids and leaving. I've already consulted a lawyer. With the evidence I have, custody won't be an issue. But George, there's something else you need to know. Emily is meeting with investors tonight at La Bernardine. She's pitching them on a major expansion, claiming she has secured funding from a mysterious benefactor. She's planning to use your money to leverage actual investors. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah. Change of plans. We're going to La Bernardine tonight. The French place? Emily has a reservation there for 8 o'clock with the Brennan Investment Group. I know. Make sure we have a table, a visible one. George, Sarah said slowly, that's a power move. Very public. It needs to be. She's lived her lies in public. She can face the truth the same way. That evening, I arrived at La Bernardine at 7:45 wearing my best suit, the one I wore for board meetings with international clients. Sarah was already there, seated at a table that gave us a perfect view of Emily's corner booth. Richard and Amanda were at the bar, looking like any other wealthy couple out for drinks. Emily swept in at exactly 8 o'clock, wearing a dress I recognized from a recent credit card statement. $4,000 of designer fabric wrapped around a woman who had no idea her world was about to end. She was followed by 3 men in expensive suits, the Brennan brothers who ran one of the city's most successful investment firms. I waited until they were seated, until the wine was poured, until Emily had launched into her presentation. She had a tablet out, showing graphs and projections, her voice carrying across the restaurant as she painted a picture of success that was entirely fiction. As you can see, Emily was saying, our growth has been exponential. We're ready to scale, and with your investment plus my existing backing, we could have 10 locations within 18 months. That's when I stood up and walked over to their table. Good evening, gentlemen, I said, addressing the Brennan brothers directly. Tom, James, Michael, good to see you again. Tom Brennan's face lit up with recognition. George, what a surprise. Gentlemen, this is George McAllister. His company built our headquarters building, came in under budget and ahead of schedule. Emily's face went white, then red. You know each other? Know each other? James Brennan laughed. George's company is the only construction firm we use. We've been trying to get him to partner with us on a development project for 2 years. I'm sorry, Emily interjected, her voice pitched too high, but this is my brother George. He works odd jobs. Construction labor, mostly. Michael Brennan looked confused. Emily, your brother owns McAllister Construction. They do about $50 million in revenue annually. That's impossible, Emily said, her hands gripping the table edge. Our parents didn't leave him anything. I would know. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Actually, Emily, they left me everything. The company, the properties, the investments. You would know that if you hadn't stormed out of the will reading after learning they cut you off for stealing from them. How dare you lie in front of my investors? Emily's voice was rising, drawing attention from other tables. Sarah appeared beside me, holding a folder. Miss McAllister, these aren't your investors. In fact, you don't have any investors. The mysterious benefactor you've been claiming, that's your brother. Every dollar your boutique has ever received came from him. Emily laughed, but it sounded forced. That's ridiculous. I built my business from nothing. Richard stepped forward from the bar. I'm Richard Blackstone, Miss McAllister. I represent your brother. As of noon today, all funding to your boutique has been terminated. The building you operate from is owned by McAllister Construction, and you're being evicted for non-payment of rent. This is a joke, Emily said, but her voice was shaking now. A sick joke. I pulled out my phone and showed the Brennan brothers a document. This is 5 years of financial records showing every payment I've made to keep her business afloat. $30,000 a month in losses, covered by my personal accounts. Tom Brennan stood up slowly, his face cold. Emily, you told us you were a self-made success story. You said you turned down family money to build something on your own. I did. I am. Amanda joined our growing circle. Miss McAllister, you're also being sued for fraud. You've been using a vehicle you don't own as collateral for personal loans. The Tesla you drove here tonight? It's being repossessed as we speak. Through the restaurant's windows, we could all see a tow truck backing up to Emily's Tesla. She ran to the window, pressing her hands against the glass like a child at a candy store. "You can't do this," she whispered. "Not here. Not in front of everyone." "The same way you threw away grandmother's compass in front of everyone?" I asked quietly. "The same way you've humiliated me at every opportunity for 5 years?" The Brennan brothers were gathering their things, disgust clear on their faces. "We don't invest in liars," Tom said simply. "George, we'll call you next week about that development project." As they left, Emily turned on me, her carefully styled hair starting to fall, her makeup smudging as tears formed. "You've ruined me." "No," I said, pulling the compass from my pocket and holding it up. "You ruined yourself. This compass that you called cheap, worthless trash, it's worth more than everything you thought you owned, because it represents truth, direction, and family. 3 things you threw away long before you threw this away." The restaurant manager approached, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, but there's an issue with the credit card for this reservation." Emily fumbled for her wallet, pulling out card after card. Each one was declined. The corporate cards, the personal cards, even the emergency card she didn't know I had been paying. "I'll need a valid form of payment or I'll have to call the police," the manager said apologetically. I pulled out my wallet and handed him cash. "For the wine they already opened," I said. "They won't be staying for dinner." Emily stood there, shaking, as the reality crashed down on her. The other diners were all watching now, some recording on their phones. The social media queen who had built her image on success and wealth was being exposed as a fraud in the most public way possible. "Your house," I said quietly, so only she could hear, "has a 30-day notice posted on the door. Your husband has already left with the kids. And that lawsuit you filed against me? My lawyers are countersuing for defamation, fraud, and theft. Every check meant for your children's education that you cashed for yourself is documented." Emily's legs gave out, and she sank into a chair. "George, please. I'm your sister." "My sister died 5 years ago with our parents," I replied. "You're just someone who looks like her." As I walked out of the restaurant with my team, I could hear Emily sobbing behind us. But they weren't tears of remorse or realization. They were tears of rage, of someone who had lost their toys but not learned their lesson. Not yet. 2 days later, I was in my office when Sarah knocked and entered, her face a mix of concern and something that looked like satisfaction. "She's here," Sarah said simply. "In the lobby. Security is holding her." I looked up from the contracts I was reviewing. "How does she look?" "Like someone who hasn't slept in 48 hours. She's wearing the same dress from the restaurant, and she came in an Uber. Apparently, she tried to rent a car, but all her credit cards are frozen." "Send her up," I said, straightening my desk. "Are you sure? She needs to see this. All of it." 10 minutes later, Emily walked into my office, and I barely recognized her. Her usually perfect hair was unwashed and pulled into a messy bun. Her designer dress was wrinkled, and her makeup was gone. She looked around the executive suite with wide eyes, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the original artwork, the wall of industry awards and civic honors. "This is yours?" she whispered. "For 8 years now," I replied, gesturing for her to sit. She collapsed into the chair across from my desk. I went home. There were notices everywhere. Eviction, repossession, asset seizure. Mark was gone. He took the kids to his mother's house. He won't answer my calls. "Mark is protecting his children," I said evenly. "From me? I'm their mother. You're someone who stole their college funds and spent them on yourself. You're someone who told them their uncle was a drug-addicted loser to prevent them from knowing me. You're someone who intercepted every birthday card, every Christmas gift, every attempt I made to be in their lives." Emily's face crumpled. "How do you know about that?" "Mark told me everything. He's been documenting your behavior for 2 years. He knows about David Chen, Emily. He knows about the affair." The last bit of fight went out of her. "David stopped returning my calls yesterday. As soon as the news hit social media about the restaurant, he blocked my number." "Rats fleeing a sinking ship," Sarah said from the doorway. She walked in carrying a banker's box. "These are from your boutique. Your employees packed up your personal items and locked you out. They also started a group chat sharing stories about how you treated them. Would you like to hear some?" Emily shook her head, but Sarah continued anyway. "Jessica, the girl you fired for being 2 minutes late while she was dealing with her mother's chemotherapy? She says you laughed when she cried. Michael, who you refused to give time off for his father's funeral. He says you told him dead people don't care about attendance. Should I continue?" "Stop," Emily whispered. "Why?" I asked. "You never stopped. For 5 years, you never stopped humiliating me, belittling me, using me while simultaneously destroying my reputation. Why should we stop now?" Emily looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something genuine in her eyes. Fear. "I don't have anything," she said. "The boutique is closed. The house is gone. My car, my clothes, even my jewelry was apparently bought with your money, so it's being seized. Mark has the kids and won't let me see them. My friends won't answer my calls. I'm staying at a motel that charges by the hour because it's all I could afford with the cash in my purse." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder. "Do you know what this is?" She shook her head. "It's every birthday card, every Christmas present, every letter I tried to send to your kids over the past 5 years. All returned to sender with address unknown written in your handwriting. $60,000 in checks for their college funds, all cashed by you, endorsed with your signature." I spread the evidence across the desk like a dealer showing cards. "Here's the receipt for the bike I bought James for his 10th birthday. You returned it for store credit and bought yourself a handbag. Here's the art set I sent Lisa for Christmas. You sold it on eBay for cash." Emily stared at the papers, her hands shaking. "But the worst part," I continued, pulling out a small photo album, "is this. Every school play, every soccer game, every recital that you told me I wasn't welcome at. Mark sent me photos of all of them. Look." I opened the album, showing picture after picture of my nephew and niece growing up without me. "See this one? James winning the science fair with a project about construction engineering. He wanted me there. He asked for Uncle George, and you told him I was too busy being poor to care about him." "I was protecting them," Emily said weakly. "From what? From an uncle who loves them? From college funds? From birthday presents? Or from the truth that their mother is a thief and a liar?" Sarah stepped forward with her tablet. "Your social media is having a meltdown, by the way. That video from the restaurant has gone viral. Rich woman exposed as fraud has a nice ring to it. 3 million views and counting." Emily grabbed the tablet, scrolling through the comments with growing horror. Her carefully curated image, 5 years of posts about success and wealth and superiority, was being torn apart by strangers who had seen her humiliation. "They're calling me a con artist," she whispered. "Because you are one," I said simply. "You conned me for 5 years. You conned your husband, your children, your friends, everyone who believed your lies." "I need help," Emily said suddenly, looking up at me with desperate eyes. "Please, George, I need money to get back on my feet. Just a loan. I'll pay you back." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want me to give you more money? After everything? I'm your sister." "No," I said, standing up and walking to the window. "My sister was someone who shared toys with me when we were kids. My sister was someone who helped me with homework and taught me to ride a bike. That person disappeared long ago, replaced by someone I don't recognize. So you're just going to let me be homeless?" I turned back to her. "I'm going to give you exactly what you gave me. Nothing but judgment and criticism. How does it feel, Emily? How does it feel to be the family embarrassment?" She stood up, swaying slightly. "I'll sue you for this. I'll tell everyone how you manipulated me, how you set me up to fail." Sarah laughed. "With what lawyer? You can't afford one. And even if you could, we have 5 years of documentation showing George's generosity and your theft. We have recordings of you admitting to stealing from your parents, from your children, from charities. You're looking at criminal charges, not a civil lawsuit." "Criminal charges?" Emily's voice broke. "Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft for starters," Sarah continued. The district attorney is very interested in the charity kickback scheme you were running. Emily looked between us, realization finally dawning. You've been planning this. No, I said. I've been protecting myself. Every payment, every transaction, every generous act was documented because I knew someday you would try to destroy me completely. I just didn't know it would involve our grandmother's compass. I pulled the compass out and set it on the desk between us. This compass guided our grandmother through the hardest times of her life. She believed it would always point toward home, toward family, toward truth. You threw it in the trash because it wasn't expensive enough, wasn't flashy enough, wasn't good enough for your image. Emily reached for it, but I pulled it back. No, I said, you don't get to touch it. You don't get to suddenly care now that you've lost everything else. What am I supposed to do? She asked, tears finally falling. Where am I supposed to go? Mark said you can stay in the pool house for 2 weeks while you figure things out. After that, you're on your own. I suggest you find a job. A real one this time. Nobody will hire me. That video has ruined my reputation. Then you'll have to rebuild it. From nothing. The way you claimed you built your success. Emily stood there for a long moment, looking around the office that represented everything she had pretended to have. Mom and Dad would be ashamed of you for this. No, I said firmly. They were already ashamed of you. That's why they left you nothing. They knew exactly who you were, Emily. A thief who stole from them while they were alive, and would have ransacked their legacy after they died. She walked toward the door, then turned back. I hate you. I know, I replied. You've hated me since the day you realized I was better than you at something that actually mattered, being a decent human being. After she left, Sarah and I stood in silence for several minutes. You okay? She finally asked. I will be, I said, picking up the compass. For the first time in 5 years, I actually think I will be. 3 weeks passed before I heard from Emily again. Mark had been sending me regular updates about the kids, who were adjusting to their new reality with the resilience only children possess. They had started asking real questions about their mother, about the lies, about why she had kept them from their uncle. It was a Sunday morning when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. George? It's Emily. I'm at Mom and Dad's graves. Can you come? Her voice sounded different, broken but also clearer somehow, like a radio station finally tuning in after years of static. I found her sitting on the ground between our parents' headstones, wearing jeans and a simple sweater I didn't recognize. Her hair was pulled back in a basic ponytail, and her face was free of makeup. She looked younger, almost like the sister I remembered from high school. Mark bought these clothes for me from Target, she said without looking up. $70 for everything. I used to spend that on a single lunch. I sat down across from her, noting the fresh flowers on both graves. Carnations, our mother's favorite, not the expensive roses Emily usually brought for photo opportunities. I've been coming here every day, she continued, trying to understand how I became this person, this awful, hollow person who threw away everything real for things that didn't matter. And what have you figured out? She finally looked at me, and her eyes were clear for the first time in years, not glazed with wine or bright with artificial enthusiasm. I was jealous, she said simply. From the moment you were born, everyone loved you so easily. Mom, Dad, Grandma, teachers, friends. You didn't have to try. You just were yourself, and that was enough. But me, I had to perform. I had to be prettier, funnier, more successful, more everything just to get half the attention you got for existing. Emily, that's not. Please let me finish, she interrupted. I need to say this. All of it. I nodded. When Mom and Dad died, and I found out they left everything to you, it confirmed my worst fear, that I was unlovable, that even our parents saw me as not worthy. So I decided if I couldn't be loved, I'd be envied. If I couldn't have real success, I'd create the appearance of it. And you, sweet, generous George, you made it so easy. She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. I made a list of everyone I hurt. It's 4 pages long, and I know I'm missing people. Your name appears 17 times for different reasons. Mark, 12 times. The kids, God, the kids show up 23 times. Her voice broke on the last part. I stole their uncle from them. I stole their college funds. I stole their belief in their own mother's honesty. How do I come back from that? I don't know if you can, I said honestly. Mark is divorcing me. He showed me everything he documented. Recordings, photos, financial records. Did you know he started documenting things the day I told James you were in jail? Our 8-year-old son asked his father if Uncle George was a criminal, and that's when Mark realized I was poisoning our children against their own family. He's a good father. He's a better parent than I ever was, Emily admitted. The kids are happier now. Lisa is taking art classes, the ones I said were too messy. James joined the robotics club I told him was for nerds. They're becoming themselves instead of props in my social media life. She stood up and walked to our grandmother's headstone a few feet away. I went to the nursing home where Grandma spent her last years. The staff remembered me. Do you know what they said? They said I visited exactly 3 times in 2 years. But you? You were there every Sunday. Every single Sunday for 2 years, reading to her, playing her favorite music, holding her hand even when she didn't know who you were. She had moments of clarity, I said, joining her at the grave, right up until the end. The director gave me this, Emily said, pulling out an envelope. Grandma left it for me, but I never picked it up. Inside was a letter in our grandmother's shaky handwriting. My dear Emily, I see your pain even when you hide it behind expensive things. Your brother George has a gift for love that seems effortless, but your gift is different. You have the power to transform, to become new, to rise from ashes of your own making. I leave you no money because money has been your cage. I leave you only truth. You are loved. You have always been loved. But you must first learn to love yourself without the decorations. The compass will find you when you're ready to see the direction home. Emily was crying now, really crying. Not the theatrical tears she used for manipulation, but deep, body-shaking sobs. She knew, Emily gasped. She knew what I was, and she loved me anyway. We all did, I said quietly. We all loved you anyway. That's why it hurt so much. Emily turned to face me fully. I've been going to therapy. The therapist at the community center, the one you donate to. She's seeing me for free when she found out I'm your sister. She says I have narcissistic personality disorder with complications from chronic insecurity. It's not an excuse, just an explanation. What else does she say? That recovery is possible but requires complete ego death and reconstruction. That I have to lose everything I thought mattered to find what actually does. That I'm lucky you pulled the rug out because most people with my condition never get forced to face reality. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something that made me step back in surprise. It was a compass, not grandmother's, but a cheap one from a camping store. I bought this with the last $20 in my wallet, she said. I've been using it to navigate, literally. Walking the city, finding my way without GPS, without cars, without shortcuts. Starting from scratch with basic directions. Why? Because I need to learn what Grandma knew. That true north isn't about wealth or image or being better than others. It's about finding your way home to who you really are. We stood in silence for a moment before Emily spoke again. I got a job, minimum wage at a coffee shop downtown. The owner doesn't know who I am, doesn't care about my past. I make $12 an hour and come home exhausted, but for the first time in my life, I'm earning something real. That's good, Emily. I want to see my kids, but Mark says not yet. He says I need 6 months of therapy and steady employment first. 6 months to prove I can be a safe person for them. He's protecting them. I know. And I'm grateful, even though it kills me. Someone needs to protect them from me until I'm not dangerous anymore. She pulled out another envelope. This one new. I wrote you a letter. Don't read it now, please. Just, when you get home. When you're ready. I took the envelope, noting my name written carefully on the front. There's one more thing, Emily said, her voice getting stronger. I've been documenting everything. My therapy, my job, my journey to become someone worth knowing. Not for social media, not for image, just for myself, and maybe someday for the kids. To show them that people can change, that their mother faced her demons and tried to become better. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to ask you something, and I need you to know I'm serious first. She took a deep breath. In 6 months, when Mark lets me see the kids, would you be there? Would you help me rebuild those relationships? Not with money, not with things, just with presence? I know I have no right to ask. I thought about all the birthday cards returned, all the gifts rejected, all the Christmases missed. If you do the work, I said slowly, really do the work, then yes, I'll be there. Emily nodded, wiping her tears with her sleeve. I'm going to become someone worthy of being your sister again. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. Focus on becoming someone worthy of being their mother first, I said, gesturing toward our parents' graves. They would have forgiven me, wouldn't they? If I had asked while they were alive? In a heartbeat, I said. That's who they were. Emily knelt down and placed her cheap compass on our mother's grave. I'm going to find my way home, Mom. It might take me a while, but I'm going to try. As I walked back to my car, I turned to see Emily still kneeling between the graves, talking quietly to our parents. She looked small, broken, but for the first time in years, she also looked real. That night, I opened her letter. It was 12 pages long, detailing every single thing she had done wrong, every lie, every theft, every cruelty, but the last page was different. I know apologizing doesn't fix anything. I know words are just air after years of actions, but I need you to know that throwing away that compass woke something in me. When I saw it in the trash, surrounded by garbage and discarded wrapping paper, I saw myself. I saw what I had become. Someone who throws away precious things because they don't look valuable to others. You saved my life by destroying it. You gave me the gift of rock bottom, the chance to rebuild on solid ground instead of the quicksand I'd been standing on. I hate what I became, but I'm grateful for the chance to become something else. Your sister, if I can ever earn that title again. Emily. P.S. I know about the storage unit, Mark told me, that you kept everything, every photo, every memory, every piece of our family's history, including mine. Thank you for not throwing me away, even when I deserved it. 3 months into Emily's transformation, I received an unexpected call from Tom Brennan. George, I have an unusual request. We've been contacted by someone named Emily McAllister, applying for an entry-level position at one of our portfolio companies. Is she related to you? I sat back in my office chair, surprised. She's my sister, and yes, she's the same person from that dinner. I figured as much. Here's the thing. Her application is honest, brutally so. She outlined her entire fall from grace, took complete responsibility, and explained what she's doing to rebuild. It's the most remarkable admission of failure I've ever seen in a job application. What position did she apply for? Accounts receivable clerk. 12 steps up from the coffee shop, but still entry level. The hiring manager was impressed by her honesty, but wanted my input given our history. What do you want to do, Tom? I believe in second chances, George, but I wanted to check with you first. Would hiring her complicate your life? I thought about Emily at our parents' graves, about the therapy sessions Mark had confirmed she hadn't missed, about the steady employment she'd maintained at the coffee shop, despite customers occasionally recognizing her from the viral video. Give her the same chance you'd give anyone else, I said. No special treatment, good or bad. Fair enough. By the way, she listed you as a reference but noted, estranged due to my actions next to your name. That takes guts. 2 weeks later, Emily started her new job. She took the bus to work, brown-bagged her lunch, and according to Tom's updates, never once mentioned her past life or her connection to me. It was around this time that Mark brought the kids to my office for the first time. James, now 11, stood at the same windows where I'd made the decision to cut Emily off, his eyes wide with wonder. Mom said you owned a company, but I thought she was lying again. Your mom is trying very hard not to lie anymore, I said carefully. Lisa, 9 and perceptive beyond her years, studied the family photos on my desk. Is that Mom when she was young? That's all of us at Christmas. About 15 years ago. She looks happy, Lisa said. Really happy, not fake happy like in her Instagram photos. She was different then. Dad says people can change back if they try hard enough, James said, turning from the window. Do you think Mom can? I think your mom is trying harder than she's ever tried at anything, I replied. Mark had been standing quietly by the door, letting the kids explore. They wanted to see where Uncle George works. They're doing a family tree project for school, and suddenly they have an uncle to include. "Can we come visit sometimes?" Lisa asked. "Dad says you used to send us presents and cards, but Mom sent them back. I'd like to get to know you for real." "I'd like that too." Over the next 3 months, I saw the kids regularly. Sometimes Mark would bring them to my office after school. Other times we'd meet at the park or go to museums. They were hungry for family connection, for the uncle they'd been denied. Emily knew about these meetings. Mark told her everything, showing her photos of the kids with me. She never complained, never inserted herself, never asked for special treatment. She was earning her way back minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. The 6-month mark arrived on a rainy Thursday. The custody evaluation meeting was held at Mark's lawyer's office. I arrived as support for Mark, but also as the court-appointed supervisor for Emily's first visit with her children. Emily was already there when we arrived, sitting in the waiting room wearing simple black slacks and a white button-down shirt. No designer labels, no jewelry, except a small silver necklace with her children's initials. "Thank you for coming, George," she said quietly. The evaluator, a stern woman named Dr. Patricia Hayes, had interviewed everyone involved. Mark, the kids, Emily, her therapist, her employer, even her coffee shop manager. "Mrs. McAllister," Dr. Hayes began, "I've reviewed extensive documentation of your past behavior and your current rehabilitation efforts. Your therapist reports consistent attendance and genuine progress. Your employer commends your work ethic and humility. Your estranged husband confirms you haven't violated any boundaries or attempted manipulation." Emily sat straight, hands folded, saying nothing. "However," Dr. Hayes continued, "your children have expressed both desire to see you and fear of being hurt again." James specifically asked, and I quote, "How do we know she won't throw us away like she did Uncle George's gift?" Emily flinched, but remained silent. "Therefore, I'm recommending supervised visits, 2 hours every Sunday, with Mr. George McAllister as supervisor for the first month, then transitioning to a professional supervisor if progress is satisfactory." "I accept," Emily said immediately, "whatever it takes." That first Sunday visit was held at a neutral location, a community center playroom. I arrived early to find Emily already there, setting up board games and art supplies she'd bought with her own earned money. "I researched what they're into now," she said nervously. "James likes robotics and Lisa is into watercolors. I don't know if they still like these things, but I wanted to be prepared." When Mark arrived with the kids, they hung back at first, clinging to their father. Emily didn't rush them, didn't overwhelm them with emotion. She simply sat on the floor and started building something with the robotics kit. "I don't really understand this," she said to the room in general. "The instructions are pretty complicated." James's engineering instincts won over his hesitation. "You're holding that piece upside down," he said, stepping closer. "Oh, am I? Can you show me?" Within 10 minutes, James was sitting beside her, explaining gear ratios while Emily listened with genuine interest. Lisa was more cautious, but when Emily pulled out professional-grade watercolors, not the cheap children's ones, her artistic heart melted a little. "Where did you get these?" Lisa asked. "I saved up," Emily said simply. "My coworker is an artist, and she told me which ones were best. I wanted to get you proper supplies." For 2 hours, I watched Emily be present with her children in a way she never had been before. No phone, no photos for social media, no performing for an audience. Just a mother relearning her children, and children cautiously relearning their mother. When the visit ended, James hugged Emily quickly before running to Mark. Lisa offered a small wave. Emily didn't push for more. "Thank you," she said to me after they left. "For supervising, for not making it harder than it needed to be." "You did well," I admitted. "I was terrified every second," she confessed. "Terrified they'd reject me, terrified I'd say the wrong thing, terrified I'd slip back into old patterns. But you didn't." "No, I didn't. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, says fear is good. It keeps me humble, keeps me aware of the damage I can do if I'm not careful." Over the next month, I supervised 3 more visits. Each one went a little smoother, the children relaxed a little more, and Emily proved consistent in her change. The breakthrough came during the 4th visit. Lisa had painted a picture of their family, and she included Emily in it, standing next to but slightly apart from the rest of them. "Why am I over there?" Emily asked gently. "Because you're finding your way back," Lisa said simply. "You're not all the way home yet, but you're walking toward us." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't make it about herself. "That's exactly right, baby. I'm walking toward you, and I'll keep walking as long as it takes." After that visit, Emily asked to speak with me privately. "I want to show you something," she said, pulling out her phone. She opened her banking app, showing a savings account with $2,000. "It's not much," she said, "but it's mine. Earned honestly. I'm saving to pay you back. Not for everything. That would take a lifetime, but for the kids' college funds I stole. 20,000 each. At this rate, it'll take me years, but I'm going to do it." "Emily, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she interrupted. "Not for you, for me, for them. I need to make real amends, not just apologize. Every deposit into that account is a choice to be better than I was. What about your life? Your apartment? You need money for basic things. I have enough. I live in a studio apartment that costs $600 a month. I take the bus. I shop at thrift stores. I meal prep on Sundays. I'm living like a normal person, and honestly, it's the freest I've ever felt." She pulled out the cheap compass she'd bought, now worn from daily carry. "I check this every morning," she said. "Not to find actual directions, but to remind myself that I'm choosing my path now. No one else is paying for it, enabling it, or forcing it. It's just me, choosing to walk toward true north." 1 year later, Thanksgiving arrived with unusual warmth for November. I stood in my kitchen, preparing the turkey while Sarah helped with side dishes. We'd become closer over the past year, our professional relationship evolving into genuine friendship and recently into something more. "You're nervous," she observed, watching me check my phone for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. "It's the first family Thanksgiving since everything fell apart," I admitted. "Mark is bringing the kids, and Emily will be here." "You don't have to do this," Sarah reminded me. "Forgiveness doesn't require hosting dinner." "No, but family does. Or at least, the family we're trying to rebuild does." The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock. Mark arrived first with James and Lisa, who had grown noticeably in the past year. James was nearly as tall as his father now, and Lisa had traded her shy demeanor for quiet confidence. "Uncle George!" Lisa ran to hug me, holding a painting she'd made. "I painted your office building. See? I even got the windows right." "It's perfect," I said, meaning it. James followed with a handshake that turned into a hug. "Mom's parking. She's nervous too." "We're all a little nervous," Mark admitted. "First holidays are hard after everything changes." Emily appeared in the doorway carrying a pie and a gift bag, looking healthier than I'd seen her in years. She'd gained some weight back after the stress-induced weight loss of her collapse. Her hair was its natural brown instead of the expensive blonde highlights, and she wore a simple dress from Target that somehow looked better on her than any designer outfit ever had. "I made apple pie," she said, holding it up. "From scratch. YouTube University taught me." "Since when do you cook?" I asked, taking the pie. "Since I had to learn to feed myself on $15 a day," she laughed, and it was genuine. "Turns out I'm actually not bad at it when I'm not trying to impress anyone." The gift bag held something unexpected, a framed photo of our family from 20 years ago, before everything went wrong, but it had been reimagined as a watercolor painting. "Lisa and I worked on it together," Emily explained. "She taught me watercolor basics. I'm terrible at it, but she fixed my mistakes." "I only helped a little," Lisa said. "Mom did most of it herself." We gathered in the dining room, the same table where our parents once hosted holidays. Emily sat in our mother's old spot, but this time she'd earned it through work, not assumed it through entitlement. "Before we eat," Emily said, standing up nervously, "I wanted to say something. George, can I?" I nodded. 1 year ago, I was nobody. Not a failed somebody, but actually nobody. No identity beyond my lies, no value beyond what others gave me, no purpose beyond maintaining an image that was killing me. She took a breath. Today, I'm Emily McAllister, accounts receivable supervisor at Brennan Industries. I earned my promotion through my own work. I'm Emily McAllister, mother in recovery who has her kids every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. I'm Emily McAllister, 12 months sober from the addiction of needing to be superior to others. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. This is a check for $2,000. It's the first payment toward the $40,000 I stole from my children's college funds. At my current savings rate, I'll have it all paid back in 8 years, but Tom Brennan says if I keep improving at work, I might make senior supervisor next year, which would help me pay it back faster. Emily, I started, but she held up her hand. Please let me finish. Mark, you gave me a second chance when no one else would have. You let me back into our children's lives when you had every right to keep me away forever. Kids, you forgave me when I hadn't earned it yet. You teach me every day what unconditional love really looks like. She turned to Sarah. I owe you an apology too. I stole your business idea in college, and when it failed, I blamed everyone but myself. That boutique was never mine to run. It was yours, and I'm sorry I took that from you. Sarah nodded, her expression softening. I appreciate that, Emily. I really do. Finally, Emily turned back to me. George, you saved my life by letting it collapse. You loved me enough to stop enabling me. You showed me that rock bottom has a basement, but also that there's a ladder if you're willing to climb it one rung at a time. She pulled out the compass, our grandmother's compass, that I'd returned to her 6 months earlier when she'd earned her first real promotion. This compass doesn't point north, she said, making everyone laugh. I had it checked. It's off by about 15 degrees. But Grandma didn't care about magnetic north. She cared about true north, the internal compass that points toward love, family, and truth. For the first time in my life, mine is working. We ate dinner like a real family. No phones at the table, no photos for social media, no performing for an invisible audience. Just conversation, laughter, and the occasional comfortable silence. James talked about his robotics team making state finals. Lisa showed everyone her portfolio for the Young Artists program she'd been accepted into. Mark shared stories from his classroom, and Sarah told embarrassing stories about my early business mistakes that had everyone laughing. Emily contributed too, not with brags or false accomplishments, but with genuine humor about her journey. Last week, a woman recognized me at the grocery store from that viral video, she said. She started recording, waiting for me to do something horrible. So I just smiled and said, yes, I'm the woman who lost everything and deserved it. But I'm rebuilding, and I hope you never have to learn the lessons I did. She stopped recording and actually hugged me. What did you do? Lisa asked. I hugged her back and cried in the cereal aisle. Emily laughed. The manager had to bring us tissues. After dinner, while the kids helped Mark with dishes, Emily and I stood on the back deck looking at the yard where we'd played as children. I have something to tell you, she said. Dr. Martinez is referring me to a specialist. She thinks I might be ready to help other people going through what I went through. Not as a therapist, but as a peer counselor. Someone who's been in the pit and found a way out. That's amazing, Emily. It's terrifying. What if I'm not ready? What if I hurt someone trying to help them? The fact that you're asking that question means you're ready, I said. The old Emily never wondered if she might hurt people. The old Emily hurt people and called it love, she said quietly. We stood in comfortable silence until she spoke again. I'm writing a book. Not for publication, just for the kids. The real story of their mother's fall and recovery. Doctor Martinez thinks it might help them understand when they're older that mental health struggles are real but not excuses. What's it called? Compass points. Finding your way home after you've lost everything. Cheesy, right? Honest? I corrected. The kids burst onto the deck, followed by Mark and Sarah carrying dessert. Emily's homemade apple pie was surprisingly good, and she beamed when everyone asked for seconds. As the evening wound down, Emily pulled me aside one more time. I want to show you something, she said, pulling out her phone. She opened a document titled Amends List. There are 147 people on this list. she said. Everyone I hurt, lied to, stole from, or used. I've made direct amends to 38 of them so far. Some don't want to hear from me, and I respect that. Others, like Mrs. Chen from the dry cleaners who I screamed at for no reason, were so kind it broke my heart. She said she'd been praying for me. You're really doing the work, I said, impressed. Every single day. Some days I want to quit, to slide back into easy patterns. But then I look at this. She showed me her phone's wallpaper. A photo from today's dinner with all of us around the table. This is what I'm working for. Not money, not status, not image. Just this. Family, truth, love without conditions or price tags. As everyone prepared to leave, Emily handed out small wrapped packages. I made these in my therapy craft group, she said, almost shyly. Inside were small, handmade compass pendants, carved from wood and painted with watercolors. They don't actually work as compasses, she explained. But they're reminders that we all have an internal compass, and sometimes we need help finding which way it points. James immediately put his on, declaring it cool. Lisa said she'd add it to her art supply bag for inspiration. Mark pocketed his with a gentle smile, and Sarah surprised everyone by putting hers on immediately. Thank you for this, Emily, Sarah said. For all of this. As Emily walked to her car, a used Honda Civic she'd bought with her own money, she turned back to look at the house. Same time next year? She asked hopefully. Same time next year, I confirmed. Later that evening, after everyone had gone home and Sarah was helping me clean up, she said something that stuck with me. You know what the real miracle is? She said. It's not that Emily changed. People can change when they hit rock bottom. The real miracle is that you all changed too. Mark became stronger, the kids became more resilient, and you became someone who could set boundaries while still loving. That's the real story here. She was right. Emily's transformation was remarkable, but it had transformed all of us. We were a different family now, not perfect, not without scars, but honest. We'd learned that love without truth is manipulation, but truth without love is cruelty. We'd found the balance. That night, I sat in my study, looking at the compass, our grandmother's compass that had started this entire journey. I thought about Emily throwing it away, about the pain that followed, about the long road to redemption we'd all walked. Then I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a new journal, writing on the first page. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't what you give someone, but what you stop giving them. Sometimes love looks like letting someone fall. Sometimes family means starting over from scratch. And sometimes, a broken compass that doesn't point north can still guide you home. I closed the journal and picked up my phone, seeing a text from Emily. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when you gave up on enabling me. I love you, brother. I texted back. I love you too, sister. See you Sunday for coffee. Because that's what we did now. Every Sunday, we met for coffee at the shop where she'd started her comeback. No agenda, no performance, just a brother and sister learning to be family again, one cup at a time. The compass sat on my desk, 15 degrees off from magnetic north, but pointing exactly where it needed to, toward forgiveness, toward growth, toward the true meaning of family. The next morning, I woke up to find an email from Tom Brennan. George, your sister just submitted a business proposal for a new initiative at our company. It's a financial literacy program for people recovering from bankruptcy or financial crisis. It's brilliant, drawing on her personal experience and her professional growth. She's requesting no special treatment, just a fair review. I think she might be onto something special here. I smiled, knowing Emily had found her purpose not in spite of her fall, but because of it. Later that week, at our Sunday coffee meeting, Emily showed me a letter from one of the boutique employees she'd mistreated. Dear Emily, it read, I heard about your journey from a mutual friend. I wanted you to know that I forgive you. Your cruelty taught me to never accept that treatment again. In a strange way, you helped me find my strength by showing me what I would never become. I wish you peace on your journey. That's the 27th forgiveness letter, Emily said. I don't deserve any of them. That's what makes them forgiveness, I replied. If you deserve them, they'd just be acknowledgments. As we sat in that coffee shop, the same one where she'd started over with nothing. I realized our story had come full circle, not back to where we started, but to where we were always meant to be. Two siblings who had weathered the worst storm imaginable and found their way back to each other. "I have a confession," Emily said suddenly. "I kept one thing from my old life." She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo from her birthday party, the one where she'd thrown away the compass. But this wasn't the moment of cruelty. It was from earlier in the evening, when she'd first seen me arrive, and for just a split second caught by someone's camera, her face showed genuine happiness at seeing her brother. This reminds me that even at my worst, somewhere inside, I still loved you. I just buried it under so much garbage that I couldn't find it, like the compass in the trash can. "But you found it," I said. "We found it," she corrected. "Together. And that's the truth about family," I realized. Sometimes it takes losing everything to find what really matters. Sometimes the most expensive gifts are worthless, and the cheapest compass is priceless. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something real. But mostly, family means showing up, doing the work, and choosing to love each other not in spite of your failures, but through them. As we left the coffee shop, Emily stopped at the door. "Hey, George." "Yeah? Thank you for throwing me away. It was the only way I could learn to find myself." "I didn't throw you away, Emily. I threw away the false version of you. I kept the real you safe in that storage unit, waiting for you to come back." She smiled. That genuine smile from childhood I thought I'd never see again. "Well, I'm back now." "Yes, I agreed, you are. What would you do if someone you loved threw away your most precious gift? Would you walk away forever, or would you love them enough to let them fall, knowing that rock bottom might be the only foundation strong enough to build a real life on? Sometimes the hardest thing isn't cutting someone off, it's knowing when to let them back in. But when you do, when you all do the work to heal and grow, you might just find that your family is stronger for having been broken. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear that redemption is possible, that families can heal, and that sometimes the best gift you can give someone is the chance to earn their way back. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories of hope and redemption, and leave a comment sharing your own experiences with family, forgiveness, and second chances. Your stories inspire others, and remind us all that we're not alone in our struggles. Until next time, remember, true north isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Keep walking toward the light, even when the path is dark. Peace and blessings to you all.